أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. So this is our third session for Surah Qaf. The surah is an early Meccan surah. The main topic is about resurrection. Surah was starting with Qaf by the glorious Quran. No, but they deem it strange that a warner from among them has come unto them, and the deniers say, this is a strange thing, when we are dead and have become dust. That would be a far return. This was the main intro verses. And then Quran started bringing up an argument against this idea of seeing resurrection far-fetched. We know that which the earth takes away from them, and with us is a comprehensive record. Nay, but they have denied the truth when it came unto them, therefore they are now in a state of confusion. Have they not then observed the sky above them, how we have constructed it and beautified it, and how there are no flaws in it? And the earth have we spread out, and have placed on it firm mountains, and have caused of every beautiful pair of plants to grow in it. An insight and a reminder to every human being who willingly turns to God. And we send down from the sky blessed water, thereby we give growth unto gardens and the grain of crops. And lofty date palms with ranged clusters, رزقا للعباد وأحيينا به بلدة ميتة كذلك الخروج, provision for the servants, slaves, and therewith we give life to a dead land. This is how the resurrection is. It's a very quick recap of the past 2 weeks. So Quran is not leaving, like, since the question of after I die, am I going to be brought back, sounds a far-fetched. Quran is not simply saying that, trust me, you will get resurrected, but rather gives us example, or in a sense, gives us an evidence that the resurrection must happen, will happen, by giving us what might be causing a question mark in my head, cleansing this question mark, saying that, don't you see how I keep resurrecting the dead? Your resurrection is going to be no different. What makes you think that it's a far-fetched idea? So, any comments up to here or questions? This was a very quick recap of the past 2 weeks. I didn't want to spend too much time. Any comments, any questions? Are we good so far? Good? Okay. So last week we were stopped here. كذبت قبلهم قوم نوح وأصحاب الرس وثمود وعاد وفرعون وإخوان لوط. The folk of Noah denied before them, and so did the people of Ar-Ras and Thamud, and Ad and Pharaoh, and the brethren of Lut, وأصحاب الأيكة وقوم تبع كل كذب الرسل فحق وعيد, and the dwellers in the wood and the folk of Tubba, everyone denied their messengers. Therefore, my threat took effect. So for this one, my general understanding was very brief. Many people that came before, even groups of people, have denied the messenger who came with this message of resurrection. So the proof that was made was so clear. Yet, people have denied this. So I guess we have this nerd mentality, saying that if a large group of people are saying something, it must be true, or it has some sort of a validity. But in here, the verse is saying that, yes, many before them came, and they were all deniers. So them denying something, a congregation of denier doesn't add up, as we discussed before. So this, on the other hand, the proof itself is a visible proof in the existence. 1, 2, people seeing it and confirming it is enough. But that's why in here, reminding us of the past who denied doesn't mean much. Their denial didn't add up, meaning didn't save them from what we were threatening them against. By denying the resurrection, they couldn't escape from it. أفعين بالخلق.
If the odds of disbelief are higher than the odds of belief,
Okay.
is it fair to have to choose?
Okay, what do you mean by odds of? Okay, explain it a little more.
I mean, it seems like it's
More people
a
are
big
betting on.
game.
Yeah.
Dealers.
Yeah.
favor.
So more people are betting in the denial
Yeah,
part. Okay.
you got bad odds.
So the interesting part is you're free to bet any side, and
Is it a fair game? That's the question. Because from the odds, it seems it's rigged, but is it actually fair?
well, I don't know about the gambling part of it, but based on my experience, I am given the choice, like the freedom of choice to choose either to accept the reality or deny the reality, cover up the truth. Now, many people in the past and in the present denying the truth. Does it make it any more correct? It will come more within the discussion down the verses. But as we were discussing, I remember Natalie was mentioning this as well in the previous week, not the past week, the week before. But we are living a life in which we avoid thinking about death. It's not part of the conversation as if. But is this a natural state of beings, or is it that we are intentionally avoiding it? And by we avoiding it or escaping from it, does it become non-existing? If I don't look there, does it disappear? But this is how we are pretending, and this is how those people did. They denied the message. But this didn't change the result. Wa'id, what was the threat, like the promised threat, Wa'id is like Wa'ad. Wa'ad is promising something good. Wa'id is promising something bad. Like Atik, once this discussion finishes, I'll show it to you. Like this is Wa'id. It is, the Wa'ad would be, after the discussion, I'm going to take you for a dinner. So death, by pretending as if death doesn't exist, just live the moment, make most joy of your life. This is the attitude. This doesn't change the result. Still, death is there. Still, I am dying moment by moment. And covering up the truth of what the messenger brings, just because I say it's a far-fetched idea, doesn't save me. Now comes this interesting verse. أَفَعَيْنَ بِالْخَلْقِ الْأَوَّلِ. Were we then worn out by the first creation? بَلْ هُمْ فِي لَبْسٍ مِّنْ خَلْقٍ جَدِيدٍ. Yet they are in doubt about a new creation. This is a very interesting verse, and I would like to dwell a little bit on this verse. So, first side of the verse. أَفَعَيْنَ بِالْخَلْقِ الْأَوَّلِ. The first part that I would like to attract our attention to is this being worn out. The Creator is saying that were we worn out, were we wearied, were we tired from the first creation? When Quran uses a sentence, we should question, is there any sign of weariness in the universe? This is what it is saying, really. I'll ask that question, but before the first question that I have written there, does God need to rest? Or even maybe more important than this is, do I ever think about variness for the creator that the verse is refuting it? Like if Atik comes and I tell Atik, I didn't kill the CEO of this insurance company. Atik would say, well, I didn't even insinuate it. Why are you refuting something that I didn't even mention? Now, Quran is saying that did the first creation make us tired? Quran is refuting something here, as if somebody is implying that God is tired. But do you ever think about such a thing? Why is Quran refuting something? Yeah.
I think about this when you're like do the same thing over and over again, and this is like the 100th times I've been like better, quote unquote. But so then you're like, God must be so tired of me just saying the same thing and repenting in the same manner and then coming back to the same thing, or not improving in the same way that I have hoped. And I feel like that's the time where it's so easy to slip into this idea like, oh, you must be so tired of hearing this. Like, why would you even pay attention to me? There's so many people that are actually like doing what they say they're succeeding. So that's language is actually quite easy to use for me. So I feel like that's the time where nobody's really writing me like if the I feel like, but it is quite easy to do that.
Okay. Like in terms of using that language, agree, then you're using it in the sense of I'm tired of hearing this. Like it is the same thing again and again. But in terms of tired of creation.
It's like I'm tired of forgiving you. Like if you were asking, for example, for forgiveness, and because like if you do that to your parents, for example, the first time it's like after the third, that like we don't see a change in you. Like I'm so tired of this thing, you just kind of go away. It's the same, I guess, idea whenever I think of that. So that's why I'm like, that's how I feel like it's maybe in the creation too, is that you are doing something and there's this kind of like getting tired of the same mistake, getting tired of the same fights that we have with other people, getting tired of the same destruction that's happening.
Okay. I mean, this is a different sense of tiredness that I haven't think about. It's more so like I do expect a change in your behavior, and you keep coming with the same thing again and again. And I say, well, I'm tired of this, meaning I'm getting impatient. Correct. More so. Okay, maybe. I don't know if this is what's intended here, but in the sense of resurrection was taking place or being seen as far-fetched. And resurrection is, I will die, and once I am gone, I become dust. I'm going to be made anew. So I'm going to be created. But when it comes to creating, what does it mean that the creator is not getting tired or getting tired? Do I have the notion of God getting tired at all?
Of creating humans?
Of creating anything?
I don't think so. There's no glitch in the matrix ever. Like everything works all the time. Therefore, I wouldn't even consider it.
So, for example, where is it? So I have this remote control here. I can hold this like this for, I don't know, 5 days, 10 days, 100 days. I'm not going to get tired of this because it's too light, right? But if I were lifting, I don't know, this laptop, it's heavier. After 2 hours, I will start getting tired, right? If I was lifting, I don't know, 50 pounds, after 5 seconds, I will start getting tired. What do you think? Do you have such a sense of difference, of hardness, easiness when it comes to creation? Like it's easier to create a butterfly, but harder to create a human being.
I think we say that it's fine, right? Like, but then we find something and we're like, actually, no, it's more complicated than we thought. But we're often comparing things based on like the mass that we feel that it takes to make that thing. So, but I guess I never thought of it in this context of like Because one is questioning, but then their answer is like, then why are you in doubt of this thing if you've never questioned the first thing? It's like how I'm reading this. Because I've never thought of the first question, but then the second question is then telling me, then why are you surprised that you can also be resurrected? And I'm not quite sure how to answer that, because you're right. Like, I do have a higher doubt for the second one than I do for the first. Like, when you asked me that, it wasn't in my first thought process,
Yeah.
but the second one, I could have easily went there.
Yeah, but since Quran is bringing up the issue, we should question. Like, it should, as my example was, I didn't kill the CEO. Who say, well, nobody thought that you did.
Yeah.
But if I'm a wise person and saying that I haven't killed the CEO, then it might be that it's relevant to you guys. Probably it passed from your mind that maybe. So if my creator, all wise, who knows me and all the questions that I have, is mentioning that, did we get tired from the first one? Maybe I should question myself. Do I ever think that creation of certain things are easier to him than harder to him, like, or in general, rather than him, because still I speak as if everybody in here knows what it means God creates. Maybe we didn't even think about this, which will be my second question, actually. But for now, let's focus on the difference of creating a certain thing versus creating another thing. Do I feel like they're equally easy to the creator? Or in my perception, certain things are easier, certain things are tougher? Yes.
I think it just makes me think of, in relationship with the past, the past, like the previous slide, right? Like, it says we give life to a dead land, right?
Mhm.
So we were created out of seemingly like nothing. And now there's like, I think in this discussion, we've also discussed how, like, if Allah did it once, like, why couldn't he do it again? So even if we don't consider, right, even if we don't doubt that it was easy or hard for the creator to create us in the first place, we do doubt the second. Like, it can be a source of doubt that he would do it again. But I feel like with that part, he says, like, I already did it and you don't doubt it, but now you're doubting like that I could do it again. Like, it shouldn't be. Like, it's showing that, or shedding light on that part of ourselves that doesn't doubt the first one. So to invite us to not doubt the second.
So think about it this way. Let's say you see a super nice car outside. It's like tell me a super nice car other than a Corolla. No, not a Toyota. Like, let's say I have some sort of a Ferrari, and I just shake the key here and say that, see, I am driving this car. I am capable of affording this car. Do you think that I cannot afford a second one like this? You say, well, maybe you just drained your bank account. You don't have the ability to buy a second one. Like, doing the first one, you consumed all your money. You don't have enough money for the second one. Yeah.
But isn't this, I guess, like the concept that you just gave, I feel like it's different than the example you initially gave of, do you think, for example, giving life to a butterfly is harder than giving life to a human? Because I feel like that difference I've never paid attention to. Because I'm just like, well, it exists, so somebody's doing it. But then if I'm thinking of like, if I attach, like, I'm assuming that money came to you now, I've lost all sense, and I'm like, yep, this person's the person who's making money. I've not really gotten any part of that question. Then I'm thinking like, oh, he certainly can't afford this. Because then I feel like I quite literally remove God from that situation. Versus like if it's quote living things versus like car and all of this thing that I think quote unquote human made. So I see like that two doesn't even compare for one person.
So like when because the issue here is I am made.
Correct.
I am a living being now. And I mean, based on all our discussions, past discussions, I am making it a little shortcut here, since I cannot make myself, I'm realizing that I am being made. I am being made by someone who is, because I'm not capable of even raising my hand. I'm just choosing, and then the rest is being made. So my maker must be way powerful than myself. So this is granted. But after I die, will he be able to make me again, remake me? This is the question, right? And then my evidence in here is being that, apparently, I am made in the first place. So whomever is capable of doing me in the first place should be able to make me for a second time as well. But what comes to mind in such a case could be that, well, what if all the energy, all the resources got drained when I was being made for the first time? Would he be able to make me again?
Having a hard time, because I'm like, is that the question of why we go for the, I'm trying to figure out like why my doubt is this initially. Like, is it because I think it's drained, or is it like because I think it's impossible, which I guess is drained maybe, but I don't know. I think that's like what I'm having a harder time. I agree and I get the concept. I'm just having a harder time. Why do I believe that?
So by drained, of course, it's an example with humans.
Yeah.
But what this alludes to is it's a finite power who is making me. This is when getting tired also becomes an issue. Getting tired means there was a finite source, and this finite source is getting lesser and lesser. This is why, as a human being, since I have limited muscle power, as I keep lifting this for long time, I will just get lesser in strength, and I wouldn't be able to hold it anymore. So when it comes to me being sustained in this life, okay, I am being sustained, but once I die, will I be able to get sustained again is our question, if we think about it. So whomever made me in the first place, will the same source be able to make me again? Becomes a relevant question. Like, okay, your father was able to sustain you for high school, fine. But would he be able to sustain you for the college? Maybe good for the public school, but in a private college? How about a college in the United States? Like, if I increase the prices, you would say that, well, of course, his budget has a limit. So what makes, because where did we start from? The idea was far-fetched. Human getting resurrected was somehow, for certain people, far-fetched. And Quran is, if like digging, what might make you think that it's a far-fetched idea? Without you noticing it, actually, you might be entertaining the idea that the maker has a limited power. Just to say that it's easier to create a butterfly, and now by create, I mean referring to the creator, then creating a human is harder, or creating paradise is even harder, happens because I imagine creator's power as my power. Like tiredness. Quran mentions وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. He has power over everything. What do I understand when this is said? The most expensive thing you can imagine is $100, and he has more dollars than $100. Is this what I understand? Or his power is undefinable, unquantifiable, and whatnot. Since per existence, I observe that maker of this existence must be absolute. So he's unlike anything, therefore capable of doing everything. But Quran is using a very interesting language to make me think about this stuff, saying that, do you think he is getting tired, or the first creation made him tired? Do you feel like creating things make him less? We need to question ourselves deeper. Like those, the way I'm formulating it might sound weird because I've never thought about it like this. But what is Quran pushing me in that direction? Because saying that, you know what, knowingly or unknowingly, you might be thinking like that. Or let's think about it in a different. There's a comment online.
Oh, Sid, I have a comment, but also before me, someone was raising a hand. I think it was Nuran Hazim
Okay,
was raising hand before me.
sorry about that, Sister Nora. Please go ahead.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. I think the concept of believing in the power of Allah being indefinite was repeated in the Quran from Surah Al-Baqarah till many times, where it emphasized the verses saying kun fayakun. If he wills something, he will just say be and it is. And it's sometimes hard for any human being to believe, in miracles. The second time this verse was mentioned in the conversation between Allah and Zakaria, where he was asking him for a son, and then he said like, I'm old aged and my wife is old aged, and it doesn't make sense. So how will you do it? And Allah said, like, be and it is. You just have to believe in the absolute, power of Allah.
Jazakallah khair. Actually, this is a good example in terms of the things that we might consider, is God able really to do that? You are applying for a certain job and you feel like, no way. Or you're feeling like you are doomed in a certain sense and it will never happen, no way. What makes me think that no way, it's not possible? Brother Bikram, go ahead.
Salam alaikum. So I think when we try to understand this topic from God having absolute power or infinite power, we might be doing injustice to ourselves. Like what I mean is making it more difficult than necessary. And the reason I'm saying is because just like in this the example Sister Nuran just gave us, Zechariah alayhi salam, for instance, like he's a prophet, but he's still thinking in the terms of the creation. So he's not questioning whether God has infinite power or not, but he's thinking one thing in the creation is more difficult than another thing. Or one thing in the creation is more complex than another thing. So this is something we all do. And I think if we think it from this perspective, things becomes easier, because no matter how many times you tell me, this might be a little bit controversial, because it's also might be, unlike, let's say, the method that we've been using from time to time. No matter how many times you tell me that God has absolute power or infinite power, it does not make my mind, understand something. I say that, oh yeah, God has absolute power, therefore he can do everything. Yes, that's true. I mean, if you put it that way, I would say yes. But when you leave it to me, and when I start thinking, I will not think it that way. I will think in terms of the creation that I see. And I think we should do that as well, like in such arguments as well. Instead of saying that the God has absolute power, therefore one thing is not more difficult than another thing, maybe we should say, if you look at the creation, you will realize that the power that is needed for one thing, it's not different than another thing. When you put it that way, my mind understands it easier. I say creating a flower from nothing or out of nothing, from my perspective, of course, right? It's not any different than creating the whole spring. And when you convince me how this is so, and you can do it by just looking at the flower, say how it is embedded within the entire spring, within the entire, the universe and so on, and you show me that just one flower itself is as complex as requiring, the infinite power, just the flower itself. You show me this, and then tell me, then do you think that now the spring itself is more difficult than a flower? I would say no. Or you can put it in the opposite direction, like whatever is giving rise to this the flower, right? You do this anyway, like you say, whatever giving rise to this flower must have such an absolute power, absolute wisdom, and so on and so forth. That's right. The thing is, when I look at the spring, I see the same thing. Whatever giving rise to the spring must have the absolute power, absolute wisdom, and so on and so forth. So I equate this flower and spring, not the absolute power of a creator here and absolute power of the creator there, because I cannot equate them anyway. Like I will just use them in the sentence maybe, but my mind will not understand it. But when you give it to me in terms of spring and the flower, now I understand. I don't know if it makes sense or makes things more complicated. Yeah.
Jazakallah khair. So I mean that's a good perspective. So for the creation of a flower versus creation of a spring, which one is harder? Common sense might say that, well, in a spring there are multiple flowers, therefore making one flower is seemingly easier than making the spring. But the way the creation is taking place, whomever makes the flower needs to be making the entire spring, not only the spring, but the entire galaxy. So making a single flower requires making a galaxy. So is making a spring. So this is why making a flower and making a spring are coming from the same hand. There must be coming from a hand which has absolute power. Therefore, one is not easier or harder than the other. This is what وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ means. He has power over everything. His power is beyond anything, like unquantifiably beyond anything. This is why this notion of getting tired cannot be even mentioned. But I might be falling prey to this idea, though. This is why Quran is bringing it up. Do you really think that your creator is someone, or the maker of this existence is someone for whom creating of a flower is requiring less of a power? Or ultimately, making you, like initial making of human was easy, but the second making of human is harder. Like, what do you think? Is this your perception? This is why do you think it far-fetched? So Quran is cleaning up, because we do not put these into words, but Quran is encouraging us to, or pushing us to the corner, saying that actually this is what your words imply when you say resurrection is a far-fetched idea. This is one of the things that is hidden underneath your assumption. And I mean, if generally we are not as honest to ourselves to say that, yeah, I think it's a far-fetched idea, but I invite ourselves to have this conversation with an atheist friend. And your atheist friend now says, resurrection? Like, I'm going to be resurrected after I get rotten under this soil? Come on, man. Like, this is a very far-fetched idea. Do you have anything to say to this friend? Or to what extent do you have anything to say to this friend? If I don't, then it's not that I am convinced and it's not a far-fetched idea at all for me, but rather I avoid asking that question. That is my reality. And Quran is, by mentioning this, it's not saying that, oh, Qadir, you are a very pious guy. I'm not talking to you, Qadir, here. I'm talking to this atheist. Atheist is not reading this. It's talking to Qadir. So Quran is inviting me to bear witness to this, or question and find out in me, especially in this day and age, resurrection being far-fetched is there. Very it's somewhere. So facing my reality. So then in this case, if we go and ask, as now the Quran is saying, do you see any variness in the existence? Do you see anywhere where you say the maker is failing to do it, not able to do it? Like, what is a sign that makes you think that creation of one, because Brother Birkan's point, is it clear to me? Making of a flower versus making of a spring, are they equally easy or equally hard in my perception? Do I see any flaw? And actually, the previous verse was inviting us to that too. Said that creation of the heavens, and see if you see any flaw in there. We were invited to check for this. Because if I were to see a flaw in there, I would say, well, he is incapable of doing so. Bil khalq al-awwal, the first creation. What is the first creation here? Let's take it easy within the comment, within the context of the verse, the surah. Brother Birkan?
I apologize. Yes, this is a little bit tangential, maybe the topic, but what you just said, the last thing you said about, do you see any flaw in the creation? I think this is extremely important because nowadays, like, just give me a second. I apologize for this one.
Okay. So I don't know how many seconds, but I'll.
Oh yeah, I'm back. Sorry, I was talking, and then Huda put the entire chestnut in her mouth. Sorry. I think this is very relevant. What you just said is extremely important because, like the way the evolution works, okay, the way it is taught to us, it is based on, like, forget about all details and so on, but at the core, it is based on mistakes, errors. Like, we are supposed to accept that there are errors in the creation. Okay? Errors happens all the time, and
in the sense of imperfection.
Or it's like a mutation, for instance. Genetic mutation is an error in coding.
Okay.
Like, it was supposed to be A, but it was coded as G instead.
Okay.
So it was an error in the the coding of the DNA. So, and by accumulation of these errors, things happen. So in that sense, there is no perfection. There's no such thing as perfection. Okay? So, and we are so into this, the way of thinking that there are errors. Our daily life, our practical life is also built on this idea. Like, if we check ourselves, everybody in the room, check ourselves, we think, things happen by mistakes. So I have, for instance, let's say a back pain. It's a result of what? A mistake of my action. So I was not supposed to lift a heavy whatever, but I did it. So out of this mistake, out of this error, my back hurts. Somebody gets sick, What is the reason? He was wearing too light, like it was not, the warm enough for the winter. He made a mistake.
Mhm.
I'm not talking about, denying the responsibilities and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
But it is always about the mistake in the creation. It was not supposed to be that way. So what you just said and the ayahs challenging this ideology that whatever is happening is a perfect creation. There is no errors.
Yes, continue.
Oh, that's all. I just wanted to highlight this, because it's easy to miss that we believe in errors in the creation, but we do. And this ayah is, the ayahs that you highlighted is challenging this the belief.
Mhm. Yeah. So the first creation, we can take this as within the context in general, and I think there are many layers of meaning here. The first one is Creator created you as Qadir and makes you live for 60 years, and you die, and you question whether a second Qadir is going to come after Qadir becomes dust. And now the Creator is asking here, like, making the Qadir for the first time, do you really think that it made me tired that I cannot make a second Qadir to resurrect him? This is correct, and this is a visible question. But in the second part, it is going to talk about Khalq Jadid. Yet they are in doubt about a new creation. So in this example, a new Qadir is going to be a Qadir after Qadir is resurrected from his grave, right? But let me ask you another fundamental question. You guys are Muslims, so probably you believe that God creates from nothing. Do you? God creates from nothing? Have you ever seen an example of that? God creating from nothing. What makes you think that God creates from nothing? At some point in the past, we were having a discussion like this, and said, okay, God, we say God creates from nothing. What is the evidence for this? And in the entire gathering, people said, oh yeah, referring to some sentence in some book. Oh, God creates food for the undersea creatures from nothing. Well, I barely went 2 meters under the sea. I don't see them either. But we all say God creates from nothing. And this is about creation. Khalq Jadid. And talking about the first creation as well. What is first creation here? You had a hand there? Okay, that's good.
Just makes me think of you know what, I don't really know that part, but like the whole universe, like angels, I'm not sure what Allah created first, but like yeah, maybe that, like angels.
Angels?
By creation, what do we mean? Like, is every individual creation being created at the very moment? Then we can say like every single thing is being created for the first time, like from nothing. Like, if you're saying like every single moment is being created by the creator, then it is from nothing. Like,
Are you saying this?
I think this because, like, for example, if I'm moving my hand, it's being created at this very single moment, and I don't know how I'm doing it. Every single thing is being created at this moment, so I think it is from nothing. Like, I cannot.
But your hand was there 2 seconds ago. I think it didn't go anywhere. It was always there, isn't it?
It was always there, but like, I think it's being maintained. That is how I would say at the very.
Like, is it like the Big Bang? Like he did the Big Bang first, and then it's now that he made it for the first time, then it keeps being there. No?
That would mean like it's just been put there, but right now what I think or what I believe is like it is being maintained at like every single moment. Like for example, the blood supply, or for example, me breathing air and then getting oxygen in and not carbon dioxide inside my body. All of that is being created like every single moment.
Mhm.
And I cannot trace that back, so seemingly it is out of nothing.
But blood cell, this second, last second, it's the same blood cell though.
But it is a new creation, and there is no like
Okay.
trace back, I would say.
Okay. Yes.
I know we talked about this and like similar examples given from, and I do think it's hard to get there than to hear it. Like I can hear it, but I can visualize it. Visualizing it, at least for me, has always been hard, even though like I recognize it. But I guess in this specific context, when I have first creation versus new creation, I just thought of it literally like, if this is quote unquote like my first creation, that I must die at one point. Like this is a given. And so whatever creation comes after this drawer too would be the new creation, I guess. Like just within the context of me, if I was reading this and be like, how does it apply to me? It would just be that to contrast. So I feel like if I try to figure out what the first creation is, I don't know genuinely. Like I really don't know. And I'm thinking about like moments also, which one is the new day, then it's just like it feels very philosophical rather than just like my reality of like, okay, I feel this is the first creation that I know of, that I'm aware of, and then if I die, then I assume maybe there's another creation.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to just underline one word you said. This is sound very philosophical, right? So let's dig this deeper. The reason is, if we do not dig this, another philosophy is going to replace it. Or actually, philosophy replaces it. What do I mean by this? There's no creation that happens. Is our de facto understanding per our education, especially per our education. Our de facto understanding is particles were always there. Actually, there is no there are to. There are to is just things coming together and going away. It's just me calling it there are to. Just things are moving around and they have always been there. So there's nothing that comes to being, nothing goes to nothing. It's just motion that keeps things coming together and going away. Creation does not exist, is our de facto understanding, practically speaking. Or we are somewhere hybrid. We say, yeah, of course. I mean, if I'm going to go that materialist, this is the case. Okay, if you're not going that materialist, then where does creation happen? I'm not able to come up with a single example for that because I think things come together and a new thing happens to be. It just has to be there. It's not being made anew. Like there was one cell from father, one cell from mother, came together, and like it was half of the code was there, half of the code was here, and now it's just a combination of two codes. They were not non-existent. Half was there, half was here, come together, and this is what it writes. I mean, nothing came out of nothing. It was just there in separate places, come together, and here you are. What else do you expect? Yeah.
In the context of like, once I said that, I'm also like, obviously asking after that, then where did this please come from? Just because we do know, like, I haven't at least experienced things just like appearing in front of me, and there has to be some sort of owner that like puts this thing and this thing together. So there is questioning happening there. But I'm just saying, like, if I think about moment creation, that deeply, I have a hard time envisioning that versus like questioning. Oh yeah, but like who created that thing that came together?
So,
that's much easier.
What is the gist of the problem here? The gist of the problem is, I say, I mean, let's talk about not moment by moment, but half of you coming from your mom, half of you coming from your dad, half of the code is there, half of the code is here. And they come together and make you. Those code make you. Nothing is created there. I mean, in this case, I'm just making this time frame a little larger rather than moment by moment, but still it is the same story. What am I saying? Half, like the previous frame in this case is half code is here, half code is there. Next frame is there are two. If you would like to do it in a particle level, hydrogen is there, oxygen is here. I put them together, water is here. And I say, it happens. There's no creation here. What made water? Hydrogen and oxygen made water. They just happen to be. Egg and sperm made the cell. If I don't take this as khalqun awwal, if I don't see that this is a creation, because there were no water there. There were no daratu there. Daratu is different than those code. The code is just a simple bunch of letters. What you are is way different than what those letters are. I mean, simply speaking, it's just ink and paper. Our materialist mindset, and we are materialists, our materialist mindset thinks that this is ink and paper. Yet I say, well, ink and paper, if you put them in this formation, it means a certain thing. Like meaning is a totally different new creation than this shape of ink and paper being there. This is why it's not a matter of if I believe that moment by moment creation is happening, I should be questioning, is it really the case? If I don't question this, something else is going to take over. And the de facto understanding is it happens. It converts. This is why, at best, a believer will get excited. How about the Big Bang? At best. Khalqun Jadid, Khalqun Awwal is the previous moments, or if you would like to extend the time frame, you as a egg versus sperm, now you being here. I created this, I create this as well. It's not that sperm and egg created you. It's not like God created the first one and the rest took care of it. Is this the case? Of course, again, I am speaking as if looking at it from God's perspective. I need to check it. What makes egg? What makes sperm? What makes a human being? Whatever is in the outcome, which is human in this case, is the apparent sources, egg and sperm, able to make this human being? Should be my question. What is able to make this human being? If it is not the one that are in the sources, because the outcome has many things that the input doesn't have, then I need to ask the question, where did this come from? Because whatever makes human must be capable of raising the sun, must be capable of bringing the water, as the previous verses mentioned, actually. It said that we bring the blessed rain. Whatever makes human must be able to bring the grain from the earth. Can sperm and egg make this? If not, then it's not sperm and egg that makes human. Khalqun Awwal is something that I observe every moment, but hum fi labsin min khalqin jadid, yet they are in doubt about a new creation. This is something that keeps happening every moment. And this needs to be thoroughly questioned by ourselves. Otherwise, something else is taking over. And this is not like we are philosophizing religion or philosophizing Quran or anything. We are already there. Like we already have the exact opposite of what the verse is suggesting us to or inviting us to. We just don't put it a name because we are coming from a certain cultural background. This doesn't mean that I don't think as such. I do think as such. I mean, that's why it's a very vivid example for me that the question that I asked was made in a discussion like this, and there were, I don't know, 7, 8 people, and they couldn't come up with a single example of a creation out of nothing. They came up with this funny reference about under the sea creatures are being fed because there's no light, no nothing, yet they find some food. So it must be that God is creating food for them out of nothing. So yes, in our discussions, we talk about continuous creation. And since it repeats a lot, it might become like a another de facto acceptance, not understanding, but we need to question this. So here, the verse is inviting us, where we then worn out by the first creation, yet yet they are in doubt about a new creation. Yes.
Sister Noran, raise your hand and you charge.
It should be good. Sister Noran, you raised your hand.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. So I think as الخلق الأول is ourselves, like this is my perception because Quran also says like we سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم, we will show them our evidence in the universe and in themselves. So and it's good question, like Prophet Ibrahim asked Allah this question, how do you bring back the dead? And this example was given in Surah Al-Baqarah, I think. And also there was a man who was not a prophet, and he just passed by a town, and they were all dead. And he just stood there and said, how can God bring them back? So Allah showed him how Allah actually made him die and then brought him back 100 years later. I think actually that in our lives, each one of us has some examples like this, not literally, but sometimes you get a disease or any sort of event where you see the miracles and where, for example, everyone tells you there is no way out, and then you find a way out. And these are miracles that should make you believe. And I like this verse also that says, وَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ. Like this man, for example, who was dead because he had no face, but we brought that light in his heart, so we brought him to life.
Actually, if we pay attention, we literally have several examples of this every day. Just when you go to bed and in the morning you wake up being you, although a little different, where or how did it happen? Where did you go? Where are you now? How did you come back? And if you don't believe that you're a different person, just look at the pictures of yourselves from your childhood or like 5 years before, oh, I was young. Like constantly you are changing. But is it that the previous you is making next you? Like is yesterday's Yusuf is just building up today's Yusuf? I have no clue what's going on whatsoever. This is why moment by moment is just example of sperm egg making you is it just big giant leap in there, but you can make it moment by moment of you. So is it the same hand as Kadir was saying, my hand? Is the previous hand and the next hand are the same hand, or there's only one thing that's constant, which is change in this existence? So every moment in this case, a new being is being presented to me. So that resurrection keeps happening every day. Observing that the first creation is being made, what makes me think that a new creation is not possible? Every moment is a new creation. which might also now make me think, going back to the first, oh, this is a far-fetched idea. It's a far-fetched idea for you because you don't see the first creation. If resurrection is a far-fetched idea for you because you do not observe the first creation. There's no creation. What creation are you talking about? Let me help a little more. If you talk to your atheist friend and he says, oh, this is a far-fetched idea, how am I going to explain the matter to this person? What is the root cause of this person saying that this is a far-fetched idea? This person can say it because the person doesn't even see the first creation being there. There's no creation in this person's world. It just happens. This is why once it disperses, it cannot come back. It's a far-fetched idea. To see that it's a creation, a conscious choice that involves creation of the entire existence for creation of a single human being, then it becomes a must, as easy as a must, that a second creation, of course, would happen. So being oblivious to the fact that it's being created is what makes us think that it's a far-fetched idea. Go and check for yourself. If you're not as sure about afterlife, or if your conviction about afterlife is because Quran says so, question for yourself. What do I mean when I say God creates everything? What do I mean when I say God creates out of nothing? All these are leading to the lack of a conviction about resurrection. And of course, let's not philosophize again. What's the outcome, practical outcome of this? I do live life like anybody else, like my atheist friend. Because what's at stake? I'm not aware of anything at stake. So these are the proper outcomes. So speaking from more so, since my audience here is coming from a certain cultural background, and then we have this unlearning part of it that is needed to be done, which is being a hindrance to us. I already know what it means God creates. I already have no question about God creating from nothing. Yet I do not have a single example of what I mean when it comes God creates from nothing. So more so, I do not know what I mean when I say God creates things. These are leading to this lack of a conviction. Okay, so I guess we need to stop here. Now it's going to start talking about we verily created man, and we know what his soul whispers to him, and we are nearer to him than his jugular vein. It's a very famous verse. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. So inshallah, next time, let's continue from here. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين